Anfield Wrap on the Monday after Liverpool beat Arsenal to go 9 out of 9. On the Monday after Liverpool agree a fee with Newcastle United for Alexander Isak. On the Monday the transfer window closes and all hell will break loose. It's circa 11:30 right now. 11:30 right now. So some of the things we say could be out of date, but what won't be out of date by tomorrow morning is Liverpool are top of the league. The champions are in first position and the champions are on the march. I have with me Adam, Melia, John Gibbons, and I've got Ian Ryan, and we are in association with Peloton, the official cardio and strength partner of Liverpool Football Club. And when I turn me back over the course of the weekend, Gibbons appears to have signed us up for something mad with Peloton.
Well, I've signed us all up, including you, the viewer and listener.
When you say all, you don't mean us, do you?
D's are in. D's are in.
Bike's over there, lad.
Let's start now, because what have you got us doing?
So collectively, we're cycling to Rio. So we were thinking of a challenge. So what the feedback I got from the people who, Peloton users who used the Anfield Wrap on the first year, is that they really liked it when we did the group challenges. So we did a road to Istanbul to commemorate the 20th anniversary. And so we thought, well, what more can we do? And Mo, who I'm not sure is joining in, but did have the idea of doing the road to Rio in honour of our new superstar. So Peloton are up for it, all sounds good. So if you want to take part, you need the Peloton app, join the Anfield Wrap team, and then sign up to the challenge. The more of us who do it, obviously, the easier it becomes. We end up doing about 3,800 miles for Istanbul. This is obviously more than that. I've done the maths, it's more. So we could do with a few more people helping us. We could do with, all hands on deck. So you just need to download the app and get...
And we've got to do it in the month of September.
Month of September,
We've got to the 30th of September.
Yeah, from today.
Well, it is the 1st.
Yes.
Today.
Famously.
So we've got 30 days starting now.
Yeah.
Why are you just sat there?
Mike's there.
I've got these jeans on.
I mean, Neil do it in jeans.
Yeah, but also feel free to go keck free and see where you end up. We are top of the league and we'll go from there. Listen, we're made up to partner with Peloton. They've been an official sponsor of the Anfield Wrap for ages, and they have been with Liverpool as well. We are pleased as well to be able to do the community stuff, and some people can win tickets to Liverpool versus Man United by virtue of this.
Yeah, so Peloton are dead excited about it, and they've said they give us, so it's 3 pairs of tickets. So it's anyone, so if you do 1 mile or 1,000 miles, you go in and we'll do a draw at the end of the month. So everyone who takes part has got a chance of winning one of 3 pairs of tickets for Liverpool v Man United.
Not me and you, though. We're going to take part, but we're not entering into the draw because that'd be ludicrous. It'll look terrible. First prize, Neil Atkinson. Second prize, John Gibbons. A terrible look.
Yeah, it probably won't. We probably won't win. But you guys might do. So that's pretty cool. So nice one for Peloton for throwing it. That nice little sweetener.
Excellent stuff. It was a massive Sunday, Adam. It was as big as Sundays can possibly get. The game, the win, the transfer. It's enormous. It's, all 3 of those things were enormous. The game itself felt huge. The win and the nature of it is hugely significant. But the British record transfer fee and the ultimate statement of intent by Liverpool's first 2 choices for centre forwards and the best attacking midfielder on the planet in one summer. It's a statement of intent not just for 1 season but for 3 or 4.
Yeah, we said it when we signed Wirtz, didn't we? It's the sort of move that you've always dreamt of Liverpool making, and to add Isak to that is honestly it is beyond what I would have dreamt at the start of the summer, and to come off the back of beating the second best team in the country at your ground and underlining certain things about the superiority of our side, to then do that with the it's an off-field thing, but it's a huge mental lift for us and a huge mental blow to our opposition teams, our rivals. It can't be underestimated, this sort of thing, and it's been a long road to get there, and you can't just do that. You can't skip steps. I guess this is maybe what Newcastle and other teams have sort of learned this summer, that you kind of can't skip that thing of you can't miss years. It's about progress, and the thing that you always want is to get better every year. For the summer transfer window, to think that okay, we've improved there. Everybody sees what areas you need to improve in, and it just gets harder and harder to the level where it's you almost can't see where those extra peaks are, and the kind of mountain range of success. But Liverpool have found one, and the only way you can do it is by being really, really good anyway and being successful. And then it's about that thing of underlining it and dominance, off-field dominance, and we all cross our fingers and hope that the things happen in terms of skill and luck and everything that it leads to on-field dominance. But off the field, Liverpool have done everything they possibly could to achieve dominance now, which is just I honestly couldn't be more excited.
He's on a 6-year deal. Gakpo signed a long-term deal. Ekitike's coming on a 6-year deal. Wirtz is in a 5-year deal. For me, the point of this, and this is why I've led, but normally I'd always lead with the game. And the game, like that game, I'd lead with that game. But I've led with this because the reason why is because I think it says, no, we're here for the next 5 years. It says, listen, things could go wrong this year, injury crises, the ball could bounce the wrong way. The point is, Liverpool will be challenging for the Champions League next year, the year after. Liverpool will be challenging for the league next year, the league at the year after. This is what this signing, if the Wirtz signing didn't confirm it, this is what this signing 100% puts in the lights.
100%, and you've got to be thinking about what comes after Mohamed Salah. And listen, they play in different positions, but it's about getting top centre forwards, top strikers in Isak's case, in the door and in the building before someone like Salah leaves. So you can't. I mean, I agree with Adam. It's an outstanding signing by the club, and listen, it's lasted about 39 days, I think. Craig Hope reported it as. It feels like 39 years, to be honest. But they've got it done, and I had a sense that something might happen kind of Sunday night post game, and obviously there's loads of momentum around about 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock when people are reporting it, and then obviously it goes nuclear just after midnight. So yeah, it's fabulous. I mean, we are getting a footballer here who is he's a player who can take your breath away. There's moments where you're sitting and thinking, wow, he's just done that, has he? And we've had a real kind of sense of that where we've been on the end of it. In cup finals, the game at St James's where he just lashes it in from 30 yards.
It's Newcastle's debut at Anfield.
Yeah, and he's unbelievable that night. You see him play and you think, wow, they've got a football on their hands here. But I always think back to, even some of the sublime skill that he's able to kind of, demonstrate. That one at Goodison Park where he's dancing through 4 or 5 and then pulls it back. And you just think, wow, what a footballer. So he's got those moments in his locker. I think Liverpool will have to have an eye on just being a bit careful with him, because there's a temptation, certainly from us, but the manager's much smarter than us, of just wanting to pop him in straight away. But obviously they'll have to look after him. And I say that knowing full well there's a derby on the horizon. And listen, if you want to introduce yourself to the fans, scoring in that game is not a bad way to do it. But they will have to have an eye on just taking care of him. He's not had much of a pre-season. We know that. He's been training on his own. And he's picked up the odd injury in the past. So Liverpool will need to be conscious and careful of that. But I'm sure they will be. But sitting here right now, my God, you can't fail to be just delighted by it all.
He's coming and playing for the champions. This is the thing. He's playing for the champions. He's playing for the best team. He's going to help improve the best team, and the best team's already pretty good.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just echo what everyone said, really, just how exciting it is from a statement of intent. But I just can't wait to watch him. And that's what I keep saying. I was saying on the show last night, you just think about propping him in this Liverpool team. And it's already so good, like you've all said. But he's a superstar, and there's quite a few of them at the moment, which feels a little bit unusual, to have these many sorts of superstar players within a team. There's the old adage of, if you plays to play the piano and a few to carry it. I think these boys all want to play, and if they can get it right, it's going to be some symphony, isn't it? And that's what the manager does and wants to do, and he's trying to do, and he wants to make it work. This is his team that he's building now in front of our eyes, and this is what he's after. And they've gone out and got him some great footballers. So fair play. They deserve a lot of credit, I think, for how they've stuck to the guns on it. They've remained calm when a few other people have maybe sort of lost their heads, but they were obviously confident that they get it over the line. It looks like they've done it, and like Ian says, they will need to be careful with him, but they can be, because that's the best thing about improving in a winning team, is that you don't have to rush. He doesn't have to come in and save the day. There's nothing to save. We're top of the league. We're champions. We're 9 from 9. He doesn't need to come in, and we're not pinning all our hopes on him. He can take his time. He can come off the bench for the first few games, because he's coming in to a winning team, and we can make sure he's right, because, like you said before, we're signing for 6 years, not 6 weeks, but it's just really coming together, isn't it? It just feels like it's really coming together in terms of this next Liverpool side. And like Adam says, it looks like they want to dominate, and that sounds good to me.
What I love about it most, John, is they want the pressure. I think that the club wants the pressure. I think that, you know, when you listen to Van Dijk and Salah speak, they want the pressure. And you know, the manager wants the pressure. Yeah, first press conference back, you know what he's going to be like. They're going to say, you bought this, you spent this much money, you've done this. What should the expectations be? And he'll go, well, what they always are. We should try. And for me, that's, I've loved this feeling of, no, we want the pressure. I think it actually stems into the game yesterday, where second half, Liverpool almost come out and put the pressure on themselves of, we've got to be the ones to try and make this football match happen. We've got to be the ones to try and win this game because we're the champions, because we're at home, but I think also because we're Liverpool.
Yeah, he'll have looked at a couple of games last season. I think particularly maybe the PSG one at home. You know, he's talked about how well we played and talked about, you know, what a high standard football game it was, but we didn't manage to score. We obviously have the ball in the net once, it's disallowed, you know, we hit the post. So there's an element of misfortune, but he's looking at it going, how do I take misfortune out of it? And the beauty about someone like Isaac, and Wirtz as well, but someone like Isaac is that he's the guy who scores when you're on top. So he's the guy, you know, you're on top in a game, you're not going, oh, it's still 0-0 and we've battered these, he's scored. But also he's the guy who can get you something out of nothing. So in a tight game, he can produce a moment of brilliance, like he did at St James's Park last season, where it's 0-0 and they're doing all right, and suddenly just larps one does it, it's in the back of the net, and it was like, what are you supposed to do about that? I love a player when people look around and go, what are you supposed to do about that? I like that he's R1 because he's a match winner, and you say you can't have too many of them, but they're actually pretty rare. You know, someone who can almost win you the game on their own. I remember Michael Owen used to be like that. He win you the game on his own. He's that type of footballer.
All right, massive Sunday, the table. 9 from 9, I want to put it in the context, not just the game, we'll come on to the game in a minute, but the 9 from 9, the 3 wins, not perfect. No one's sat round saying it's perfect, but they've been full of courage. And I think they've been full of quality at key moments. For me, that's the hallmark of what you've seen so far. The Chiesa finish, the Ingamoa move and finish, and then the Szoboszlai free kick. You know, for me, they've shown loads of courage. They've not allowed themselves to be beaten down by an opponent, and they've found the way.
Absolutely, and that's what champions do, or that's what teams who want to become champions do. And I've been quite relaxed about it to an extent. I say your point, it's not been perfect. No, we can all see that. We've all watched enough football. We know when it's not going, you know, particularly kind of well all of the time, or it's not 100% all of the. We know that. But when I grew up, I was always told, you work your way into seasons. You work your way into a season. You're not expected to be at it from minute one. But what you have to do, what you absolutely have to do is pick the points up. And Liverpool are doing that. So they're not playing particularly well for 90s, but they are picking up points, and they are doing it in a fashion where, if you want to be kind to them, you can say, well, they're digging in, they're showing determination, they're showing grit at the right times, they're having to find a way, as you said, across multiple challenges. You know, look at those 3 teams they've faced. And I couldn't get over at the start of the season. People were looking saying, well, Liverpool's start's pretty easy. I'm thinking, hang on a sec, if you watch Bournemouth, they're a team who, despite losing players, the philosophy of the manager is they never give in, they never give up, they keep coming until they're dead. And you knew that would be a tough game. Newcastle was
Tottenham.
Yeah, exactly.
Tottenham just beat City. They then go and win at Tottenham. You know, and that's
easily,
their
by the
away
way,
game.
1-0 flat at Tottenham. Massively.
Yeah, and I said that post that game. I said the thing about Bournemouth is last season they created the 3rd most expected goals away from home. They're really good on the road because you want the ball when you're at home, especially if you're a good side. And they go, you want the ball? Do you watch this? We're taking it off you. Let's go.
Yeah, they play with no fear, and that's always a dangerous opponent. And you know, as I touched on before, they've got one of the most probably exciting managers in the league, who probably is destined for bigger things, and that's the way these things go. And then Newcastle was always going to be its own thing, with all the context around it, with all the hysteria, with the horribleness of the whole thing. That was always going to push it from maybe one of the hardest 6 games to maybe one of the hardest 2 or 3 games. And it proved that, you know, 2-0 down, they come back, but Liverpool dig in, they find a way through a piece of brilliance from a young footballer who is, again, destined to have a great career. And you go from there, and then Arsenal, I mean, we'll probably get into the game, as you said, in a little bit, but again, that was always going to be a really tough game. And listen, there's things they do that make it really hard. And again, we'll come on to it. But yeah, it's going to be a tough match. But again, Liverpool somehow, through a moment of brilliance, found a way.
9. Chelsea are on 7. Had far easier fixtures. Arsenal done okay. You know, they've had to go to Old Trafford and win, and they've won the home game. We should win. And they've lost probably their hardest game of the season. Is Anfield. It will be their hardest game of the season. City now are already 6 behind. And our games have, game by game, our game has been tougher. They went away at Wolves, we had Bournemouth at home. We went away to Newcastle, they had Tottenham at home. Brighton away, Arsenal at home. Yes, it's two homes and one away for us, but our games are harder and we find ourselves 6 clear.
Yeah, John and I were talking about it. I sat next to John yesterday, and John and I were talking about that on the way out, because I sort of wasn't aware of who was the closest to us, and I was saying that we did the overview show. I think you were on it as well, and I actually said that I thought we'd get 9 and look a bit, maybe not like the finished article, but by hook or by crook we'd get it. But I thought City would too. I thought City would be sitting there on 9 as well. So that City result was a sneaky, massive thing. I think I do see them having a good season. So that one of them where just before we kick off, a big rival of ours slips up and actually manages to lose. I thought was looking back on it, I think is a big thing. In terms of the big picture of what the season's looked like. Another thing we were saying yesterday is you've sort of got each department of the pitch. You probably could pick holes in at various times. I think obviously we think the central defence is looking really, really good now, but if you go a game and a half ago, it's sort of it was the area that was being criticised the most. Fullbacks bedding in, one actually not being fit now. You can pick holes in that. I think the midfield, certainly around the Charity Shield, there's holes being picked in that, and the attack it's sort of trying to figure itself out. The thing I think that we have got is in a new sort of way. I mean, I guess it's like a sort of mentality monster type of thing. There's a mentality there which I think is probably the champion mentality, which I can't really remember seeing in such a way. Where
it's because you haven't played as champions in front of the crowd.
I know. Well, I think that's what it is. And so yesterday, I could sense there was a bit of frustration. I was slightly frustrated. I wasn't sure whether I felt happy about it at half time. I was a bit worried at half time, but I thought, I don't think they are. I think the sort of calmness. I felt like, are we being dragged into the doldrums by Arsenal's sort of very doldrumish way of being, or were we just being calm and thinking we think that there's something to come, but we think there's a moment there for us. And as it got to about 60, so I thought Jones was brilliant when he came on, and we'll come on to this, but I thought we were already there anyway. I thought McAllister was good actually just before he went off after having not been, and I thought in general that we were building up a head of steam, and it was all about that champions mentality where we decided, okay, we're happy with 6 points. If we end on 7, okay, but we think we can win today. I might be projecting because that was how I felt, but I felt like you could feel that coming from.
You mentioned bedding in there, Adam, and I think that was my point in terms of working towards something. Sorry, Neil, only going to clap there, but when you have got so much churn, and City have proven how difficult it is. 3 games they've had there, they've only won one of them against a really, really poor Wolves team. The overreaction to that game was quite interesting when you look back at it now. But to suddenly have to bed in 2 new fullbacks to deal with a pre-season where everyone's at different stages. You see McAllister's not quite at it yet, he's not quite ready, but you're still putting him in there. There's new players up front as well, you've got to embed them. So it was never going to be this thing, or very unlikely to be, you're at it 100% from day one. So to do all that, to kind of deal with that, to bed them in and still be picking up the points, my God, you couldn't ask for a better start.
Let's get into the game, John. Both sides' approach first half. Adam just said there, feeling a little bit wobbly first 45. I thought Liverpool were a little bit wobbly. I think this is why, I was critical and will remain critical of Arsenal's approach in that I think that on about 25, I think Liverpool may well be there for the take, and Arsenal have always got an extra man, it feels, but the extra man's always behind the ball. This is the oddness of playing them, and that you can feel as though you can't get the ball off them, but you can also feel as though, but they're not really getting into our final third and hurting us in an obvious way, but you're aware of their excellence, because they are excellent. One of the reasons why I find them so frustrating is because they are excellent, and you get to see it right in front of your eyes, and then you just get the game reduced to set pieces, to Declan Rice trotting over and taking corners, and that was the major threat.
It was, but the delivery was poor, I thought, and I was thankful for that, because one thing I was conscious of, we're all conscious of set pieces going into the game, but I remember thinking, like, hopefully they have a bad day delivery-wise, and they did. I thought, I mean, generally struggled a little bit, but certainly a set piece delivery, which is normally spot on, completely deserted them, and so they lost that. Obviously, Saliba's a threat from them, and he went off early as well. So I don't know if that sort of got to them a little bit. I thought the lad who came on at centre half was good, but he wasn't. He hasn't got that goal scoring threat. It seems that Saliba hasn't. So they got themselves into a bit of a situation where Arsenal, where they were set up really well, they were making a half for Liverpool, but then they didn't have that next thing to go and do to push on to win the game, because I thought all three attacking players, in different ways, didn't really sort of threaten Liverpool. The strikers obviously, still finding his way to be sort of generous, and the wide lads, I think, he will say still finding his way. And the wide lads, I think, are busy, but busy fools, if I'm honest. And so I think, they didn't necessarily have that to hurt us, but us really, I was frustrated because I couldn't really see, looking at us, what the plan was to get in behind them, or what the plan was to stretch them, or what the plan was to really hurt them. The best chance falls to Virgil, and it's just out of nothing. It's Virgil pressing right up the pitch, doesn't it, and then declines to shoot for reasons that I don't think he'll be quite sure of. I'm sure he was going home going, why didn't I just put my foot through that? But that was, when your best opportunities, coming from your centre half pressing and coming through, something's not quite right. Second half, the half time, don't they watch things and stuff like that. And second half, they came out and started to show a little bit more. But first half, I was a little bit disappointed in Liverpool, really, because although they're very hard to play against, I still thought we weren't asking any questions of them at all.
I think they are hard to play against, though. Like, being able to see them in the ground, you get to see how they're brilliant at blocking your passing lanes. So when they've got it, they've always got an extra man, but as I say, he's always behind the ball. When you've got it, the shape and the structure's absolutely perfect. But again, one of the issues there is, if they then nick it back, they haven't got an option to go. They've not allowed themselves that one gamble, and I think that is the odd thing about playing them, and maybe we've been spoiled in recent years because the big games that we've had when we've been at the top of the table have been with Man City, and they felt like genuine, not saying that they're not well organised, these teams, but they've been like blood and guts, but so much quality and so much determination to make it happen, to show full football and dominance. And this game just didn't have that first half from either side. But as I say, I thought we were the ones who were wobblier, and it was our jugular that needed to be gone at, if you see what I mean.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think when the teams drop, for me, I was in no doubt that our starting 11 was stronger than theirs, and you can have a bit of a chat about their bench because they had one or two weapons on there where you're thinking if they come on, they could cause us a problem. Eze, Odegaard, they're lads who would normally be pushing for first 11 spots. Trossard's on the bench good as sub. Well, yeah, decent sub. But ultimately, I was thinking there's nothing really massively to fear here other than maybe the set-piece stuff, because it never looked like Arsenal were really going to maybe ever cut you open. But you mentioned Liverpool, Manchester City there. I think what kind of struck me is that when you were going into those games, you always felt like, yes, you might have the odd stalemate, but ultimately you could be in for an all-timer as well, because the teams were that technically gifted and that good. And there was almost this thing where they'd have the courage of the convictions, they'd be bold, they'd be brave. Ultimately, they would try and seize the day more often than not. Or one team might cut loose and just batter the other one, which can happen as well. But when you see Arsenal's team drop, you never really get a sense of that, I don't think, because you know exactly what they're coming for. And as you said, they are a good side, probably the second best team in the country. They have got a good manager, he's a good coach, you can't get away from that. He's finished second 3 times. But also there's this sense that he's rocking up to Anfield like he's Bobby Gould in 1988 and just wants to play for set pieces.
I'll take time out the game.
Take time out the game, go down when he can, be overly physical at times. I mean, it's no surprise to me that they are taking pot shots where I'm thinking to myself, you're not beating the big fella from there, but they're taking shots because they want the corner. Yeah. If it flicks off someone, they'll take a corner
and they're happy with the goal kick.
And
so they're happy with the goal kick.
And it's just,
that kick-off.
Well, if you've spent £1 billion, over £1 billion, I think as an Arsenal fan, you're entitled to be thinking, you're doing a good job, but I'm sorry, I want more.
I think they are.
I want more from my football team.
We went for a pint with a few Arsenal fans before the game. We do it both home and away, and there was about 6 or 7 of them all there. And as soon as the team come through, the first thing they all said was 3 defensive midfielders. Yeah. And listen, Arteta, you know, he'd have picked Odegaard if he could, and so that's obviously fair enough, but he did have other moves, but the first thing they all said when they looked at the team was 3 defensive midfielders, and like the shoulders went down almost, like, you know, what he did.
Well, Johnny could have played Eze in the 10
yeah,
if he wanted to. I was surprised Eze didn't start, given the money he'd spent. I think Arsenal fans were surprised as well, but obviously he decides to use him from the bench, so nothing really kind of surprised you in terms of, you know, the team selection maybe, or the setup, and certainly Arsenal's approach. And, you know, I said at half-time, it was at half-time, you know, these are horrible to watch. And a few people came back and said, well, Liverpool aren't particularly great either. And I took the point that Liverpool hadn't played particularly well, but you felt like once the game settled, if there was an opportunity, and under normal circumstances, Liverpool will play with intent. They will try and play football, and they will try and carve the other team open. And sometimes that can work against you. You know, against Bournemouth, maybe they're pushing on too much. But I'd rather live and die by that sword than to watch what Arsenal are serving up. And they may well go on to have a good season because things can change. But just judging that in isolation yesterday, I don't think it was anywhere near good enough.
There's something with, it really reminded me of a lot of Liverpool-Chelsea games between 2005 and 2005 and 2010, no matter who the Chelsea manager was. There's one I always remember where we lose the ball, I think Mascherano loses the ball in centre mid, and within 5 seconds, Drogba's got it in the back of the net. And it was the only thing that anyone really got wrong all game, and it was off a mini risk, and then that happens to you. You know, it's sort of, that was what was in my head watching it. But as part of that, it feels to me a little bit like Arteta's heard about big games in books. He's read about them in books. You know, as I say, I just keep sort of coming back to, and it might be unfair because different football teams, different moments. I think it's early in the season. You can choose to play football matches any way you like, but that's also my point. You can choose to play football matches any way you like, and if we draw yesterday, or God forbid we get beat, and we're saying this, it sounds like sour grapes, we won. And one of the things that I'd almost like to say to Arsenal, to Arteta, to whoever it is, you've tried that, and you got beat. So if you'd have tried something else, maybe you'd have won. And also the worst happened, you got beat. And that to me is, you know, and you got beat by, listen, it's a moment of genius, it's a moment of magic, but you created the circumstance where that was the likeliest thing. And if you turn it into a toss of a coin, and it comes down heads, you can't complain afterwards and go, well, it was, you know, don't turn it into a toss of a coin, play football.
Yeah. I mean, when you talk about the City v Liverpool games in recent times, the word breathless, isn't it? It wasn't at all breathless. There was that, you know,
loads of breaths.
Yeah, plenty of time to think about my breathing. But and I don't want to completely damn them. I think in general, I think you're talking about the big picture. There is a mentality thing which is a bit damning of them, and we'll see whether it continues to kind of fulfil that prophecy as it does keep seeming to. But I think they are really, really hard to play against.
They're really good. This is the
I think they're really good, and so that's why I'm kind of not. I maybe don't want to criticise Liverpool quite as much as you have. I wouldn't really have said wobbly. I think maybe if you're talking about how we attack, it was a little bit disjointed. I was saying to John, Arsenal are quite deep, so you'd think there's space there for Wirtz and McAllister. There actually wasn't really.
No.
There was a bit. And so if I was going to criticise us in the first half, I'd say both Wirtz and McAllister looked like there was a chance there for them to do things, but the kind of, you know, it wasn't a big chance, and we essentially didn't really make the most of that bit. You know, the Rafa blanket, that's where you sort of expected the space to be. So I would say that Liverpool looked a little bit disjointed in terms of that, but I think in terms of what we were up against, they massively missed Saka. I thought that you can really see what happens when you take a team's attacking focal point out. Because so even the free kick thing, even that when we played them last season and they got a lot of free kicks, it was mainly people kicking Saka because he's that good, isn't he, that you can't really do anything else.
Takes a good set piece as well.
He takes a great set piece, but he wins a lot of the ones that they score from. And yeah, I think it's a good point about Saliba being out. It's that thing when we had Skrtel scoring a lot of headers. We had a lot of good threats at the time. So really, they only had Gabriel there, who was there.
Didn't have Havertz either.
Yeah, exactly. So. It suddenly does blunt them a bit. So yeah, I think that in terms of wobbliness, I'm not sure. I think it might just be in a few months you will just think that was a bit of a non-event, that first half, for so many Rafa first halves where I was a little bit concerned at half-time because of their subs, and I think I just really liked. It could have gone either way in terms of whether I was worried or not, or whether I think Liverpool kind of did that on purpose. And it just seemed as though the second half was a bit like we were winning the arm wrestling match, and we were deciding, okay, now we can do this, now we can do this, now we can do a bit more, and it didn't matter really. They brought the subs on that I was worried about, and it actually didn't matter. We were already there in the arm wrestling match.
To Neil's point, I think in that first half, if you felt like there was going to be a goal, it was more likely, I think, to go to Arsenal, because I felt like there was more pressure in and around our box. But the point around, Arteta and stuff, given the group of players he's got and that collection, I mean, he's just not, for me, getting as much as he should be out of them. And I know they've got a couple of injuries there, it's the old thing, how do Arsenal got injuries? Well, they fucking tell you, all the time, that's what they do online. But they were missing a couple of lads, but he's going to be missing some. And I know Saka is the standout, but, there's also an argument that sometimes they've just pushed him a little bit too much to get him back, and that's obviously been to his detriment and things. So I think actually, we've given maybe Liverpool a bit of a hard time over the first couple of games in terms of not looking that strong and resolute when it comes to defending. You couldn't level that at them yesterday. They really step up. Every single player who maybe had a little bit of a question mark over them in terms of defensive performances, you've suddenly got Konate looking like, hang on a second, I'm in business today. Kirk has I thought, a brilliant game. So, yes, I think Arsenal maybe slightly look like they might just nick one in that first half. In the first half, that was so kind of bereft of quality, but actually there's pros in that first half of Liverpool as well, and that was about just standing really tall and big when you had to, and digging in, and just waiting for your opportunity in your moment, and they get that in the second half.
They do. There's a moment in the second half, John, that I think encapsulates two things: performance of a couple of players, but also Liverpool suddenly finding ways to play forward and doing it quickly. For me, it's the ball that Van Dijk plays 50, 60 yards along the turf, and it's unbelievable. But then you realise it's to Szoboszlai. And there's a thing in your head where, because it's to Szoboszlai, you think he's past the attacking midfielder. No, he's past the right back. The right back who's come all the way in to pick the ball up there. And I just think Liverpool, with the movements, with the technical ability, I think they just started to control proceedings, push Arsenal back. And I'm of the view, there's the disallowed goal as well. I'm of the view that Liverpool got themselves very much on top in that period. Adams also said it's the last 5 minutes of McAllister and then Curtis Jones up until when it goes 1-0. But it doesn't matter. The point about all of this is it's Liverpool backing themselves, backing the technique, backing the movement.
Yeah, when Arne Slot was getting a bit of criticism for being too open, and he did a couple of interviews with Carragher, wasn't after games, and he was talking about the pressure of overload and the pressure of numbers. And I think you see that with the goal that's disallowed, is that it's just an extra body in there that forces it over the line. Okay, it's offside in the end, but I think that's what they try and do. Obviously, you'd love the lovely team goals like Rio and Gamoa's one where it touches everyone and it looks sort of great. But if that's not quite happening, I think sometimes you just got to hammer the door down, and I think you do that through numbers, and I think that's what we started to do, and it's being brave that the opposition weren't doing. Really, it's saying, okay, well they've got lads out wide who are having a go here, but we're still prepared to go with our right back, or he's still prepared to get right up there in the pitch because he feels like if he can get over there, they probably think the ball's going to Salah. In fact, we weren't convinced that it wasn't a pass to Salah, but Szoboszlai's just sort of there to get in there, but the point is there's two of them there, and suddenly the fullback's going, hang on, I've just been dealing with Salah, and now there's another body in here. And so I think it's a big part of what he's trying to do. And I think when people talk about leaving spaces and stuff like that, I think the manager's like, well, yeah, okay, sometimes we will leave spaces, but we think it's a gamble that's worth paying because he's going to create these moments where the opposition just don't know what to do.
I think as part of that, Szoboszlai's whole performance, second half in particular, first half he does stand tall, 100%, but second half he stands tall, but also he's up here causing all sorts of, asking all sorts of questions, pinning their full-back, coming in and giving Rice a headache. Martinelli doesn't know what to do. Am I meant to go with him or not? Konate shifts over a little bit, so Martinelli's almost neutralised there. If he tries to cheat, going one way, he offered very little going the other, and I thought that all round, I thought Szoboszlai was just so in the game. Second half, from right back, he's just so in the game all the time. And then there's the goal. I mean, Jesus.
Yeah, I mean, the goal is something else. I mean, people have said on different shows, I've heard the kind of post-match stuff, it's arguably up there as one of the best free kick goals you'll see at Anfield, and I think that's absolutely fair. I remember Steven Gerrard scoring one at Villa Park about 2006, 2007, which always felt special right early on in the season. Last minute goal. This is slightly different in terms of the technique that Szoboszlai uses, but it's some finish. But I just think over certainly the last two games, he's been nothing short of outstanding. The challenge of coming up against what you would say are quite fast, tricky wingers. Yes, they can be in and out, the likes of Gordon and Martinelli, but they are good footballers who can
and
cause
Barnes,
teams.
Barnes as
yeah,
well.
absolutely, can cause. Yeah, to be fair, yeah, Gordon was through the middle, Barnes obviously left-hand side. So yeah, they can cause teams problems. Those type of footballers, and you get a sense of it after the game. You know, he gets asked about playing right back, and you can see that he'd rather be in midfield. But he's more than happy to say, I'll play where the manager wants me. I'll do a job for the team, and you know that was at the heart of his display. You could see that he was willing to kind of fight and dig in and be everything that Liverpool need him to be. And the manager alludes to that, where he kind of says he understands what it takes and what it means to be a Liverpool player in terms of what his performances kind of look and feel like on a regular, consistent basis. And I come back to, you know, when fans were talking at the start of maybe the summer that the one to miss out was Szoboszlai. I was never really having it, to be honest, because I just think over Slot's time, you've got a real kind of sense that he loves Szoboszlai, just loves him. And it might be that he just has to pop up in certain different parts of the pitch. And he might not like that at times, but I think he's got the mentality and he understands the assignments.
But this is also part of being the manager's boy, you know what I mean? The manager loves you, but part of why the manager loves you, and you love the manager, is because the manager says, I need this from you. He says it, you go and do it.
Yeah, but as you've said recently, you know, it's a season that when those fixtures drop for the European games, you just get a bit of a, okay, it looks like that, does it? It's going to be like that between now and January. He'll get plenty of games in midfield. He just will. There'll be injuries. There's loads and loads of games. He's a footballer where, you know, he's full of energy, he's full of drive. There'll be times when you want him in the middle of the park, but to suddenly have an asset where you can shift him to right back, and he looks like he's played there for a number of years, that is a massive tick in the box. And we know Bradley suffered with injuries, and we know Frimpong's going to have to settle in. Now, there might be times when you want to use Frimpong a little bit further forward in certain games. So all of a sudden, you've got another footballer who is unbelievably flexible. And when I used to watch Man City, I used to always think, you know, when they were in the pomp, you'd think, God, they've got so many footballers who, they haven't got as many as you think, but they can all play in so many different positions. And it feels like Liverpool are just working towards something akin to that, where there's lots of talented footballers here who can all pop up in different parts of the pitch and do a very, very good job in each of those different areas.
I think on Szoboszlai, the most impressive thing about the overall performance, if you take out the incredible goal, but for me, it's the fact that he's following up last week with another great performance at right back. And I think sometimes it's easy, not easy, but a player can come in an unfamiliar position, have a really good game, and then you go, oh, we'll do that again, and then it doesn't work.
Well, last season, Jones plays right back in the derby, does really well, then goes to Fulham, and good God, he really finds it hard.
Yeah, because it's a different game, because Fulham are seeing more of the ball than Everton were in that one, but also Fulham have had a week of going like, well, Curtis Jones is probably playing full-back here. He played full-back last time, so how can we get out of him? He won't be used to stuff like this. So once is a bit of a surprise to the opposition, and then they're not really sure. But listen, Arteta wouldn't have necessarily known that Szoboszlai was going to play there, because we could have brought Bradley in. But he'd have had a good, guess. It would have been something that they'd have talked about. So they'd have been talking to the wingers and saying, like, you know, have a go at him. By the end, they were avoiding him. They were like, sort that, we'll go the other side and have a go at Kirkes. And then they didn't get any change out of him either. And so I think that's, for me, the most impressive thing about the whole performance is that they'd have had a good guess all week that Szoboszlai would have been playing there at right back, and he still gave them absolutely nothing. They couldn't find a way through him.
I mentioned the ball to Szoboszlai earlier on. That felt to me like it was significant. It comes from Virgil van Dijk. I mean, my God. It's ludicrous what it is that he's doing now. It is, you know, 3 performances. He could have been man of the match, given man of the match in all 3 of them. He's just incredible.
What do you say? I mean, I've said to you before, I feel like he sort of starts as man of the match anyway in my mind, and then it's see what
someone else has got to do something really good.
See what these other lads can do.
Dan Austin once said to me that you'd always feel like John Aldridge circa 2007 on Radio City, where every week it's Steve Gerrard.
Yeah, and looking back, he's right. You know, he's right, isn't he? For years, man of the match is just Steven Gerrard, and then let's see if somebody else does something. But I mean, it's like there was a tweet flying around last night. In fact, Ian, I think you might have retweeted it from a Tottenham fan.
Oh yeah.
And so I was reading it in the replies in the Uber on the way home, and it's like, I think it was something like, it's always about where you're placing Virgil now, isn't it? So there's no longer an argument that he is currently the best defender in the league. Of course he is. So this Tottenham fan, I think, was saying he's the best in the history of the Premier League, and there's people in the replies saying he is the best in history, in the world, in world history, you know, and so it's like where you sort of placing him, and it's you know, he just keeps showing, and there's this thing about is almost like the sort of the shape of the team that you're facing. And imagine being a team coming to Anfield and seeing that the defense sort of, the defensive thing that he builds. I remember seeing I can't think of a comparison that's as good. I remember Chelsea came with Desai once, and Desai I thought was absolutely amazing for Chelsea that day. But other than that, I guess you're probably thinking about the horrific experiences of going to Old Trafford when they had, an unbelievable defence, and it just looks insurmountable. I think he makes a team that we are rebuilding feel insurmountable to oppositions, even when we can see that there's building blocks and things that everyone's sort of working out. The Salah kind of scratching his head a bit about where he fits in, but they go into the changes with him. And you remember the clip of him saying, "It's what we do when we win late at Villa. It's what we do." I feel like that. I feel like the standards he sets are so high, and the thing that he builds. It's just it's really hard to think of ways to keep on describing this, but just unbelievable, and like the fight of his in these last two games. I love it. I love football being a fight. Among the things that football is, it's a fight, and yeah, I think we show great grit, obviously, to get through against Newcastle, and unfortunately, it kind of nearly slips, and then we show great grit again. And then, the grit yesterday, exemplified by Virgil. It's just, I don't know what you say. We need to be 10 years or 20 years into the future to be able to describe it correctly.
That tweet was talking about kind of nostalgia bias, which obviously always kind of comes into these things. People talk about Terry and Ferdinand, who are very, very good footballers in their own right. But when you say like he's the best in the Premier League era, people seem to think that means like he can't ever have a bad game. Everyone has a bad game. But the minute he makes any kind of mistake, people use that as a bit of a weird stick to beat him with. Like Ferdinand and Terry didn't have bad games. I mean, there's clips of Rio Ferdinand just like on his fucking face, while Craig Bellamy goes running past him at Old Trafford, making an absolute show of him. And it'll have happened to all centre-halves, because that's just the nature of being a centre-half. Sometimes you'll come up against a forward, he'll just have you off on the day, and there's nothing you can do about it. But not many forwards get the better of Virgil van Dijk. And the only time I ever think he shows any weakness is when he just takes it a little bit easy and he thinks to himself, I'm a little bit too good for this today. And he just takes his foot off a tiny bit, and that's where maybe there's a tiny, tiny glimpse of a chink in the armour. But other than that, if he's on it and he's fully focused, I think you can easily say he is the best that the Premier League's ever seen. He's that good, and his influence on the team is that strong. And Carragher's come up with a little bit of stick recently about, talking about the other centre halves and saying, well, of course they're looking okay because they're playing next to Virgil. He probably went a little bit too far on that, because we're talking about good centre halves in Joe Gomez and Konate and Matip. Really, really good centre halves actually. But I think the point is, Virgil is that good that he can just lift other players up a little bit of a level, and that's what the greats of the game do. They lift players up another level. Steven Gerrard did it for years. He lifted the players around him, not just the lad playing next to him. He lifted the fucking team because he was that good and his influence was that great. That's what you've got with Virgil van Dijk.
I want to do Kirkers because for me it felt like an arrival game. It's great to have one, and I thought he just had one 100%.
Yeah, he did. You could see him growing in confidence throughout the game as he was winning his battles, which was great. He was getting loads of encouragement from his teammates.
And the crowd as well. The crowd was great.
Yeah, the crowd were brilliant with Konate as well. I think there's a lot of talk about atmosphere, isn't there? And what a crowd should be doing or should be singing more recently. And I think for me, when I step into Anfield, I'm trying to help Liverpool win. Yeah. And that's the mindset I have. And I think that's a lot of people's mindset. Is not unique to me. I felt the crowd knew that Konate had a bit of a tough time. So as soon as he did something half good, he really got a lot of support, and he enjoyed it, and he was throwing his arms, and he was like, almost like kind of like...
He was like, it was us. It's us this. We're doing this, aren't we? I loved that. I thought he embraced that. Yeah. And I thought you saw the same thing with Kirkers.
Yeah, absolutely.
Kirkers, when he got back in once, it wasn't like you giving the corner away. It was, no, go on, lad. Yeah. You got in there then.
And he was like, oh, great. I can do this. Do you know what I mean? Like, this sort of makes sense to me. This is what they want. Okay, brilliant. And I thought he was great. My favourite one was the tackle in stoppage time, because he was like a python. Like I didn't even, the ladder overhit it slightly, and before I'd even realised the ladder had overhit it, he was like boom, he was in. Honestly, it was like watching a snake just grabbing the prey like that, and you don't even see it, but the mouse is gone, and that's what it was like.
I felt sorry for that boy. By the way, I genuinely think we need to ask questions about whether or not we should be lashing. I don't feel good throwing Rio into an extent. I'm not sure about bringing 15-year-olds on. I'm not sure about something.
It was an act of desperation, but the speed,
safeguarding issues.
the speed with which he identified that the ladder just overhit it slightly, and it was some tackle, and hopefully it'll be great from now on, because it was a couple of shaky games, but it was 2 games, and I was never too worried about him, because I think there shouldn't be a speed to judge anyone.
And they've been mad games, and that's the other thing about this, and that's why I've had some sympathy. They've been, and even the third one's a mad game. I keep saying this, John, the 3 games have been, and they looked coming on the horizon, and with all the wider context and transfer windows, they looked like each one of these could just get out of hand.
Yeah.
Coming back, it's Bournemouth, and then it's Atletico Madrid. Sorry, Burnley. Then it's Atletico Madrid. Then it's Everton in the derby. Say what you want, the derby can have a certain energy about it. Then it's Southampton in the league. My point is, though, you just sort of know what they all are.
Yeah.
They'll just be what the thing they're meant to be all the way through.
Yeah.
And I think it'll just be easier for them to play normal football for a period. And I think that could also benefit Kerkez. Now he's gone, hello, here we go.
Absolutely, and the manager will start to rotate, I think, as the games become, 2 a week and things like that, which I think will help him. But you see the footballer that we wants to buy, and he looks up for the fight, and that's brilliant news, because I'm with Adam. I like a fight too.
Excellent stuff. We're all excitable. We're all rightly excited. We'll be back in a second. Before then, a couple of weeks ago, I had the good people from Whittle Mind in to talk about a podcast that they've had a couple of seasons of about addiction. Here I am with them. I am joined by Rachel, Dan and Tom from Whittle Mind and the Recoverist podcast to talk about what that is first and foremost. Then we're going to talk about why it is. Then we're going to talk about where it is. And then we're going to talk about how you're going to listen to it. That's the order of events for this little conversation. So we'll start to talk about what it is. And Dan, you are the host. So I hope you're perfectly placed to explain precisely what the Recoverist podcast is.
So the Recoverist podcast is just a set of little conversations around recovery and trying to discuss and break down the barriers of stigma.
Recovery from
substances and addiction in any form. Like just the other week, we recorded a gambling episode, highlighting some of the harms, the hidden things that people might not know about gambling. But yeah, it's about lived experience. The Recoverist podcast itself was born from a lived experience network, which is hosted by Whittle Mind, as part of a strategy to try and introduce these conversations to more people and combat the societal view and stigma around addiction, which I've had experience of firsthand. And putting my name forward for a podcast it's not something I've got any experience doing, and it's just happened a bit naturally. Like I was saying before, I still go into every episode going, I haven't got a clue what I'm doing. But it just flows, and the conversations and the topics we discuss, they just come out, and hopefully the people that we hope to reach are people that might not be in these circles. They might not hear these experiences and these things, but if we can, influence those minds and introduce them to something they might not know, then lives might get changed. That's the hope.
Rachel, you're from Whittle Mind, who's supporting this podcast. Yeah. You've been working in the sector for 20 years or so. So how important is it to find new ways in order to introduce people to these conversations, to let them know that they exist from your experience?
I think within mental health and within addictions, the issue of stigma and the issues that are attached to stigma and the issues that kind of come from stigma that people feel, I think has massive implications for people's recovery, whether that be in mental health and or addictions. So being able to share those conversations for people with lived experience, I think for them as well, it's important to share their story as part of their process, part of their recovery process. And again, it's about them giving back as well, to be able to hope in that the idea that we can try to help other people kind of get the support that they deserve. and need is really, really important.
How's it been listening in, sitting in on these, Dan hosting them? How have you felt the conversations have flowed?
It has been an absolute honour and an absolute pleasure to actually share in people's stories. And every day is another learning experience. The world of addiction and mental health always crosses paths, but my main area of focus has always been kind of mental health rather than addictions. And I think it's definitely been a learning curve for me, and I hope that I become a better practitioner for it, kind of going forward, and being able to support people in better ways is always important to me anyway.
Tom, you've been on board for 6 to 8 weeks or so as part of this. You've been sort of sampling it, coming in and seeing it with relatively fresh eyes, but looking to support both Rachel and Dan in different ways. What have you made of it so far?
It's interesting because I historically kind of was avoiding podcasts.
Understandable, healthy.
Just coming from the kind of comedy circles of the misspent youth. So when I got the job, I was like, oh, this is the kind of thing. I was working in homelessness, and I'd done similar things to Dan as far as like fed back into services through lived experience myself. And then and now you're going to be helping with the podcast. But it's been really...
We didn't tell you that in the job interview.
Kept that bit hidden.
Yeah. But it's really, every episode and every conversation I've kind of sat in and witnessed has been completely different as well. Obviously, we talked about the flow of them and how kind of it's all quite organic, and it always learn something. I think it's really. So I don't like being wrong though, so I'm still sticking with my opinion on the original. But it's been very eye-opening at times. Yeah.
With it, Dan, as you're sort of talking to different groups of people at different times, this is a big part of this because you're sharing. It's a different set of lived experiences on a regular basis. For you, there must be aspects of that which is firstly very, very engaging, but secondly enlightening, occasionally uplifting, but it is a difficult job, isn't it? To sit there, process this and work through this. You've got this support structure around you, but you do need it in these environments.
Yeah, I mean, you hit the nail on the head. It's all of those things in one. And the way we structured or tried to structure each of the episodes is to go into the nitty-gritty or the harder, more difficult topics first, and let the host or the hosts, not the host, sorry, the guests.
The guests. The host is
me.
you.
Yeah. No, I tend to keep away from it, but sharing.
Very third person.
Sharing their experience and going into it, but then we lead out through hope and growth, and the topics that come up then is how people have transformed their lives, which then is uplifting, and in the end, trying to end it on a bit of a lighter note. But it's tough. It's tough hearing it, and it's tough kind of walking people through it. But everyone who's come on has been so willing and so open, and shared so much that some of the stuff I didn't know. Hopefully, there's some people out there that can really get something from it.
Before we go into the specifics of where people can get the podcast from, Rachel, let's talk about Whittle Mind itself for a while. These are services that firstly support a number of services across the Whittle Peninsula, the whole borough. But Whittle Mind itself is something that people can access.
It is, yeah. So we're primarily a drop-in centre for people struggling with their mental health. You don't have to have a diagnosis of a mental health issue to use our services. And we've got a whole host of different services available for people, from counselling, befriending, perinatal mental health. We do all sorts of training and courses and things like that. But with the drop-in itself, has got a cafe and a lounge where people can just come and be and chat to people. And then from there, we've got a whole range of activities and self-help support groups that people can access. You don't have to live on the Whittle to come and use our services. There's a couple that have got restrictions because of funding issues, but the drop-in centre is open to anybody who wants to better their mental health.
Okay, and so where do people listen to the podcast, Dan?
We've put it on as many platforms as we can.
So what should they search for to find them on the platforms?
Search for The Recoverist, Spotify, Audible, There's some I can't even remember now, and I think we're aiming to hopefully get it on YouTube as well. But yeah, it's out there. There's season 1, season 2, and season 3 is coming shortly as well.
So how many currently are available to people that are listening to this right now?
There's 11 episodes total, I think.
Yep.
5 in season 1, 6 in season 2, whole range of different topics. Yeah, all sorts of different things to discover, hear about, learn about, for anyone, really.
Okay, excellent stuff. Thank you very much indeed to Rachel, Tom and Dan for coming here, and also for doing what they're doing in general. It's all very, very good stuff. Do check it out, as Dan says, find it on any one of a wide range of platforms, and you can check out everything that Whittle Mind are doing as well. Let's get back over to the rest of the show.
Excellent stuff from Whittle Mind. Thank you very much to them. Listen, subscribe to the Anfield Wrap if you've got the opportunities to do so. theanfieldwrap.com/subscribe, or through apps, or through YouTube as well for the video offering, whatever it is you need. Liverpool 9 from 9. It's been an incredible summer so far in terms of the attacking recruits. You feel like the post-Salah era is getting arranged right now, John. And as we sit here, it's about 12:20, and suddenly there's more Morgan Rogers chat happening. Emi Martinez doesn't look like he's going to Manchester United. Villa have got the general sort of PSR issues. It will be coming from relatively nowhere this late on, but you do sort of wonder whether or not, certainly if Elliott is going to go, Liverpool may feel as though they do need to get another attacker in, and I don't think they could do any better in terms of profile than Morgan Rogers.
Oh, listen, he's a really good footballer. He's young player of the year, isn't he? And had an outstanding season and looks a real talented. It wouldn't surprise you at all if he's on a list and that they've maybe had a word and just said, listen, if you're ever looking to maybe move this lad on, we'd like to be part of the conversation. I think Liverpool have got good relationships with most clubs that they deal with. You know, the irony of all this stuff with Newcastle and things like that. It looks to me like they're all actually all right with each other, and there's just been, you know, a lot of noise and obviously, you know, frustration with the player perhaps. But I think, you know, if they have been given some encouragement today that actually this is something that's possible, they will move. But I don't know, you almost feel greedy, don't you? Because it has been so fantastic, and they've got these incredible attacking players, and you're like, oh, surely they can't do another one. But hey, maybe we're in for a long night.
It's a Bayern Munich one. If you think about who's doing well, that isn't the big, you know, the biggest clubs, Villa, Palace, Newcastle. They've been good for the last couple of seasons. You know, if that one's to go over the line and the Gay one's to go over the line, that is kind of buying the best player off them clubs that are just at that level below but doing well. I love it.
If it happens, Gay, it looks as though could be getting closer. They're getting a deal lined up for Igor from Brighton, left-hand side. They've got another centre-back coming in as well. That'll give them 2 additional centre-backs. I've got tons of sympathy with their manager. He's doing a fantastic job, and he must be looking around, and it doesn't feel like they're being well organised enough. I do, you know, I do concern in terms of Liverpool's body situation that they could end up short, because he could put his foot down, the manager, I think. I think of all the managers in the league outside of Slot and Guardiola, he's arguably the one who's currently most empowered to be able to go, fuck off.
Yeah.
Because if you do this, I'm taking the first bus that comes past out of here, I'm going. I'll take the first job that comes. So I do wonder if, you know, if he doesn't feel like he is well enough stocked, that might not go through for Liverpool.
Yeah, I mean, some of the stuff that he's been coming out with, saying things like, you know, we've known about all of these kind of potential departures for months and months, and we've done nothing about it. Some stuff's been levelled at Parish around. I know they go and win the FA Cup last year, but, you know, ahead of every season, the main aim is just to stay up, and I think that's not going to match the ambitions of Glasner, who is an outstanding coach by the looks of things. So if there's any potential of him walking out the door, would that change things? Maybe, but ultimately...
Well, jobs come up at Leverkusen.
Yeah.
Played 3 at the back last year, and the year before,
But ultimately, you know, the manager could go anyway, because for those reasons. So they've got to look at it as a business decision, and if there's a club, in this case Liverpool, offering somewhere around the region of £40 million for a lad who can walk away in 10, 11 months' time for nothing, then that surely is the bigger picture stuff. So, but I like it as a sign if we can get it done. I'd love the Morgan Rogers one, you know. I mean, the Isaac one, a lot of this feels very Ferguson in that you're just taking the best player from a club who's just like on the up a little bit, certainly in Newcastle's case. And Palace, we know, are a very, very good team. So I like the idea of just taking like really good footballers from other Premier League teams where you know there's a good chance they're going to come in and they're going to hit the ground running. So I think those additions we're talking about, they'd be really good. I think you mentioned before we came back on air, Joe Gomez doesn't look like he's going out there
right now.
Right now, which I'd be a fan of, to be honest. I thought he was outstanding again when he came on, and I know there's always the injuries, and you've always got to kind of, you know, weave that into the conversation. But my God, 10 years, and he's just, when he's been on the pitch, more often than not, unless he's been coming back from one and he's maybe been pushed out to full-back, more often than not, he hits a level that is just really, really high.
My life is better with Joe Gomez in it.
I think he's the one. I think he's the one player where I think Slot underrates him. I genuinely do, and
I got a sense of that. But yesterday he was quick to praise him. Wasn't he?
I know
out
it
and
might
said,
be silly. It might.
No, I think it's fair. I think there's been that where because he hasn't been able to get going, he's not in any kind of rhythm. But I said to you before we came off air, there have been times where you've had to just drop Joe in from nowhere at centre half, and he's been able to live with the very best. We think games against Haaland that people are like, how he's come in, he's just looked outstanding. So I love him, but you're always a bit worried if he's your third or fourth choice just because of the injuries and stuff. But if Liverpool get Gay in and they're able to keep Joe around to do bits, then unless he wants to go, which I'd understand it, if he pushes it, then maybe you're in a situation where you go, what, Joe, you've been brilliant for us more often than not. If you really want to go, we'll facilitate that.
I think that's the only way it happens. I think Gahey's happening, by the way. I think Glasner's being a bit cute. I wonder whether it might even be that he's got the nod from Leverkusen. He wouldn't be surprised. He's doing a bit of his own positive PR there.
I think there's definitely a possible element to that. That he's almost doing a little bit of, if I walk, it's not on me.
It just really, before he said that yesterday, it seemed all but done. And I don't really see that noises from one person can stop something it seems almost in the 11th hour, doesn't it? So I think that one gets done and is a fantastic signing and will be a great Liverpool player for years and years. I think Gahey, I think he's a really, really good player. So I'm keeping everything crossed for those ones. And as John said, Morgan Rogers feels greedy on top of it all. So I'm not sure whether that one happens. But yeah, I mean it's exciting. I've said it before, but this is probably the first season where I've enjoyed the kind of transfer pantomime thing.
What you do feel as though if on that though, I think if they don't bring someone in, I don't think they should let Elliot go. Now, there's bits of me where my instinct is, well, if the manager's not going to pick him, what's the point of keeping him around on the one sense? But on the other hand, there might just be games here and there where he can fill in and go from there. I'm really sort of conflicted on it because if I knew the manager was going to pick Elliot, then I'd be more likely to keep Elliot around. But there's a bit of me that is, do you want to cash in on someone? And then, if 2 or 3 bad things happen all of a sudden, well, I don't know what you all think.
I think Vert is the Elliot replacement, is what I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of chat that he obviously didn't get a lot of minutes last year, which is right, and the manager didn't really want to use him. But I just think, and again, it might come down to the player when he says, listen, I really want to go. And I don't think Liverpool are in the habit of keeping hold of players now that really want to push for a way to get out the club. So I think, that, again, they facilitate it. But I just think in Harvey's case, and I said that on the show on Friday, he has got a track record of coming on and affecting football matches wearing a Liverpool shirt. That is a useful thing to have. And maybe over the course of the season he might get slightly more minutes. It will depend on things like injuries and stuff, and that's where maybe they've got to have a conversation with him to see whether he's willing just to stick around until January. But I'd like to reassess in Jan if possible.
My position, John, is I don't want to refer to anyone as a first team squad option if the manager wouldn't start them in the first team. So that's where I'm unsure on Elliot. I don't think Chiesa is a first team squad option. I think he can bring loads to Liverpool off the bench and he can play Carabao Cup games, but I don't think he's a first team squad option because I don't see the manager starting him in the first team, what you can call the first team. I think Rio by the end of the season, maybe by the start of next, could be a first team squad option, but even now I don't think, for instance, the manager wants him rocking up at Burnley away, getting on the pitch. Elliot's the question mark for me because Elliot wants to be someone's first team squad option. He wants to be someone's first team player. And if this manager won't pick him, then maybe it's right that he goes because he should go and play some football because he deserves to be someone's first team player.
Yeah, you look at Grealish and the fun he's having at Everton, and listen, I don't think Harvey Elliott is as good as Jack Grealish at the moment, but I think you look at that and someone sort of unleashed and you think, well, that could be Elliott. Elliott could go somewhere where maybe the team's not quite built around him, but the team is built up in the way that he can really sort of show what he's about. The manager's not really using him, and he obviously comes off the bench a little bit. He comes off in Newcastle, but now Isaac's there as well. I need to learn how to say his name. Everyone keeps correcting me. It's Isaac, isn't it? I'm doing him like he's in the Bible. Isaac, I will. But now we've signed him, I promise you. I'll work really hard like I did on Gakpo, and I'll nail it.
Listen, mate, you're coming on a bundle, honestly, it's great.
Isaac. Is it Isaac?
Isaac.
Yeah. I keep saying him like the first name.
I had this issue with Basetic, where I just couldn't get it right, and then someone else would say it differently the next time, and then that'd be the version that was in my head.
We were half hoping we'd sell him.
Well, well, I don't want him to get games. Whereas you, unfortunately, whether you like it or not, the best centre forward in the country is going to get them.
Yeah, he's going to get picked. I will stand in front of the mirror. Anyway, we're talking about Harvey Elliott. I just wonder now, even with the Carabao Cup.
2 L's, 2 T's.
Yeah, now I wonder whether with the Carabao Cup comes along and he goes, I wouldn't mind giving Trainioni a game. And that's the problem where you get is that he's not young enough to be like, oh, give a young player a go. So he's a squad option, but like you say, Neil, a squad option, he's not desperate to start. But then these other games come and he thinks, well, and if I'm Trainioni, I'm like, well, where's my game coming from? I'll sit around and I'll, do the odd thing with the 23s and stuff like that. But when this one comes, I want to show what I'm about, and that's not 20 minutes off the bench. So it becomes trickier and trickier, really, where you see him making an impact.
Also, who is paying the dough? That's the thing Liverpool have around, because Tyler Gibbons just gone for what, 42 million quid?
Yeah.
Liverpool will be looking at that thinking, hang on a sec, he hasn't done half the things Elliott's done. And then was it Hutchinson who's gone to Forest for 37?
Yeah.
So Liverpool, they're not soft. They're looking at this and going, hang on a sec, there's some prices going around here for lads who just haven't got anywhere near the level that Harvey's got to. So unless anyone stumps up the cash, you wouldn't be letting them go on loan anywhere, unless there's some kind of diddle for Liverpool in it. So that's the other thing that makes it really difficult for Elliott, I think, at this late stage, but we'll have to wait and see.
We'll have to wait and see. There'll be a gutter soon. There'll be everything, to be honest with you. Just
It's the Anfield Wrap.
Yeah, there'll be
everything.
There'll be everything by the end of the day. It's 12:30 now. I like doing time checks all the way through the day. When I start gutter, I'm going to go, and it's 1:10. By the way, we're going to start gutter at 1:10. Thank you very much indeed to Andy for looking after the sound. We've had Patrick, Milo, and Ash looking after different forms of the images all the way through this. We've had John Gibbons, we've had Ian Ryan, we've had Adam Melia, but more than anything else, we've definitely had Dominik Szoboszlai, but my God, we've had so much Virgil van Dijk. See you later on.